Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. From the world of Hollywood comes one of the most talked about comedies of all time, featuring a misfit band of entitled actors, all looking to rejuvenate their careers in a war movie that becomes all too real for everyone involved. We're talking about Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder was directed by Ben Stiller on a screenplay by Stiller, Justin Theroux, and Ethan Coen. It was released on August 13, 2008, and was distributed by Paramount and DreamWorks Pictures. Tropic Thunder is the story of a fictional rescue set during the Vietnam War. The character of Four-Leaf Tayback, a wounded veteran and best-selling author, penned the story of the rescue, which saw nearly all of the soldiers responsible killed during the escape. The cast of actors assembled for this war film represent a who's who of Hollywood in the movie, though each one brings his own set of problems to the production. After numerous issues with the actors, director Damien Cockburn is ready to give up on the film until Tayback offers a solution. Tayback believes that the cast should be dropped in the middle of the jungle and the remaining film shot by hidden cameras, with the intent of humbling the actors involved and making a more realistic film. Cockburn agrees, and the wheels are put into motion for the movie to finally be filmed. However, the production soon takes a turn for the worse following an unexpected accidental death. That death leads the actors to assume that the film is indeed moving forward and that the real-life drug gang known as the Flaming Dragon are all part of the movie as well. But a series of events soon brings reality to the cast, who must then find a way to survive their predicament as well as rescue one of their own. Tropic Thunder wasn't without its share of controversy along the way. Much of the criticism was leveled at Simple Jack, a fictional character with an intellectual disability whose portrayal was perceived as going too far in the film. Another point of contention was the portrayal of African-American character Sergeant Lincoln Osiris, played in the film by a fictional 5-time Academy Award winner who was himself a white Australian in blackface. Despite the controversy, Tropic Thunder was met with rave reviews from critics and fans alike upon its release. It made nearly $196 million on a budget of $92 million, making it the most successful directorial effort by Ben Stiller to date. Thanks to the humor, the all-star cast, and the story itself, Tropic Thunder remains one of the most beloved comedies in recent memory and continues to entertain audiences years after its release. And that's the lowdown on Tropic Thunder. In this day and age of political correctness, and yes, we're going there right off the bat, you guys know what the topic of this particular episode is. You can see it. It's right there in front of you. There's quite a few things about this particular subject this time that are not PC. However, we all have to remember that this particular thing came along in 2008 at a time when we weren't so woke. Do the kids still use the word woke? I have no idea. I've never been that hip, if I'm being straight, so I don't know what the verbiage is these days. But awake perhaps is a better word. More socially conscious, more socially aware. I don't want to go for trigger words here, folks. But again, you have to keep in mind that certain things that we've talked about here on the show age really well sometimes, and sometimes they don't. And I'm anxious to get Phil's take on how he thinks this movie ages, because we may have differing viewpoints, or we may agree. Who knows? We recently did Dogma here on the show. And when I say recently, as I always preface the conversation, folks, is that I don't know when this particular episode that you're listening to has been released. So recent may be as recent as 6 months ago. I have no idea. But having said that, we've covered things here before on the 6M that it could have aged better. There's some jokes that don't work now. But you know what? That's to be expected. You don't hold things against the creators because times change. You could hold things against creators if they're racist, if they're horrible people. Absolutely, and you definitely should. But if jokes are off color, if the mood's different at that time, no one gets a pass. But you have to understand, again, times change. Having said all that, yes, we're talking about Tropic Thunder, a movie which caught some flack upon its release for a couple of different reasons that we're going to get into here. But also, for my money, pound for pound, one of the funniest comedies of this current generation. And that's my honest opinion. I actually forgotten how much I enjoyed this film, and I haven't watched it in a very long time. Um, it's got an all-star cast, man. No matter how you slice it, it's an all-star cast. And there's cameos, there's guest shots, there's surprises, there's a wackadoodle story, but it kind of makes sense at the same time. There's great gags in it. There's some horribly gross things happening too. Phil, this movie has a little bit of everything. When was the last time that you've seen Tropic Thunder, and how does it hold up for you now, years after the fact?
I haven't seen it in years. I remember when it came out. It came out in 2008, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
This was like
Yes.
right around the time that Downey was just having his career resurgence with Iron Man, and this couldn't have been any more of a different, a different movie to go with. And man, I feel like it's aged really well in terms of comedy. I think it's
Mhm.
still really, really funny.
Absolutely. This movie, ironically enough, came out 10 days after Iron Man. US release was 10 days after. So, yeah, he's cooking with gas by the time this thing hits. Um, let's get into it right off the bat because I let us off with PC and socially aware and stuff. A lot of the controversy this film hit upon its release in 2008 before we were awake as a society. Three different things, in my opinion. Let's talk about uh, the simple Jack stuff. They received a lot of pushback from this, even in that time, and you can understand why they would receive pushback for it. And now, if you look at it, it's a goofball actor portraying a goofball actor who's dim-witted and dumb as a rock. Okay, but that kind of excuses it, I think. Phil, we had this conversation off mic a couple weeks ago about why Blazing Saddles works then and why, in my opinion, it works now. Because as many times as the N word is said, black people are not portrayed as in any other way than the smartest people in the film, while the white people are dumb rednecks. And for me, that's why it works. Not saying the N word's okay to say anytime you want to, but that's why it works in that film because Mel Brooks is saying, "Look, we're idiots. These are country bumpkins that don't they're dumb as rocks, that kind of thing." Does the simple Jack part of Tropic Thunder get a pass for that? Because after all, Ben Stiller's playing an idiot to begin with. I mean, or did this part of it feel weird to you? After the fact, years later.
Um, Yeah, see, I think the thing that's great about Tropic Thunder is very much lambasting uh Hollywood. It's lambasting things
Mm.
that we've kind of come to accept as normal behavior from actors. And whether that be, method acting or, Oscar bait movies and all of these things that are a thing. I think that I mean, or even if you look at stuff like Jack Black's character where he's hamming it up for these like over the top comedy roles. um yeah, I think that it works because it's lambasting some very specific topics. Now, can you say that some of it might not be politically correct? Probably not. But I don't think that it does anything in a way that seeks to make fun of
Mm.
mentally challenged people, or make light of racism or anything. I just think that it is making a joke out of things that Hollywood has done. I don't think I don't think it is ever used as a way to mock very serious subjects like that.
I can see that point. It's a shame that other people can't see a point like that because I mean, I try to put myself in the other person's shoes and say if I had a relative or someone close to me, someone that I love that had an issue or whatnot, whatever word you want to use, mental retardation. I don't think is even an appropriate word or term for it anymore. But yeah, it may be kind of classless, kind of lowball, but it is a comedy. It's not meant to be. This isn't an Oscar bait film, right? This is absolutely a screwball comedy, right? So, um, but yeah, I think in that regard, it's fine. If I were of a different opinion, would I think so? Probably not. But not to excuse anything out there, kids, but that's sort of where we both fall on that. The other two issues I want to hit you with right off the bat is, of course, Kirk Lazarus, and we'll get there eventually here. Um, Downey doing his thing, being in character, and again playing an idiot actor who's, and meanwhile you got Al Pacino who's calling him out every 2 seconds, which is great. And then also, the homosexual undertones of this movie that happen quite a bit here and there, flat out references. And it's not like mocked or anything, but it's just enough where you're like, okay, I don't know if I'm supposed to be okay with this or not. Did you bump into any one of those two things after the fact, or is it still okay with you as much as it was when it first came out?
Yeah, see, it's the same thing that I'm saying with the simple Jack stuff in Ben Stiller's character. I think that I think what they're lampasting with Robert Downey Jr.'s character and Kirk Lazarus is that he's doing method acting, and it's so over the top and so ridiculous, and he doesn't understand how something like blackface would be tone deaf, because he's doing it in service of this role, and in that way, I don't think it's that they're making light of blackface. I think that they're pointing at the fact that, some of these method actors are ludicrous. I mean, even when you look at stuff like Jared Leto and stuff that we heard that he was doing with method acting to do for the Suicide Squad as Joker, and how there's stories about how he was doing things that could be seen as harassment backstage. And so, yeah, I think that that's what it is. It is poking fun at.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can't say I bumped into anything, to be honest. But dude, it's hard now for me anyway. Even movies that I love, if I haven't seen them in a while, if something comes up that's sort of a touchy issue, it's become a little hard for me to sit there and because I have to give myself a few moments and think, am I okay with this? Like, should I be any sort of way about it? Is that weird that like I'm like putting myself under a microscope for some weird reason? I guess we all do that to a certain extent, don't we?
Yeah, and I think if it was just like he was doing this role in a movie and it was never pointed out how ridiculous or insulting it is, then maybe. But Brandon T. Jackson's character, the entire movie is telling us this is bad and this is offensive. Like that's his whole
Yeah.
point of view in the movie, and it is even funnier that his character's name is Al Pacino, and Al
Yes.
Pacino's claim to fame is as Scarface is him being dressed as another ethnicity.
Yes. Oh
um,
my God.
so yeah, I think that there are very intentional, things that they are mocking in this movie.
And the spot where he says he's basically well, he is apologizing for the way he's acting and stuff, and Pacino's not really taking his apology, and he's like, "So we cool?" And he says, "So we're cool." And he said, "We're cool now." He says, "Not really, not really, no." Like he kind of took it, but he didn't take it.
Because
Oh
he's
my
still
God,
doing
that's
it.
good stuff.
He's still doing
He's
it.
still doing it the whole time. Yeah.
He's still doing this, the black sin and everything.
Oh man. I mean, I guess Downey could have been a way more insulting with it, but he chose to go low key, which was perfect. And it's, the notes I have here, he went more of like a jive-esque is the phrase they used, and sort of a 1970s sort of Shaft kind of vibe, and I guess you could have went any number of ways with it and made it wholly disrespectful. But, I guess if you had to do this part, you approach it at least to try to make it sound cool, I guess. But, yeah, I mean, dude, we got to get into this cast, man, because again, as I said from the jump, all-star cast here, big time. Ben Stiller, the director, of course, kids, but also Tug Speedman, which may be the best fake name ever. Dude, so good. Initially, Stiller wanted to cast Keanu Reeves as Tug Speedman, and he was going to be Rick Peck, which I found very interesting. So basically, Tug Speedman has had his moment in the sun. He was it Scorcher? There was like 6 or 7 Scorcher films, and the world just stops turning, so everything becomes molten lava and is on fire. And for some reason, he's holding a baby. For some reason, and then by the 7th Scorcher film, he's holding 2 babies. You're like, what is going on? Like, why did the first baby not age? You know what I mean? Like, what? And where'd you get the second one? Oh my God. Tug Speedman, man. Ben Stiller is at his best when he's playing over the top, Zoolander style characters. I've never cared for there's something about Mary character where he's a bumbling but lovable buffoon. I'm not a fan of that. That feels hokey and ugh. But when he does the dodgeball stuff, he does Tropic Thunder, that kind of vibe, I'm in all day. But Meet the Fockers, I don't care about that. It does nothing for me. This is the kind of character that I love that he does. So what do you think about Stiller as Tug Speedman?
I think he's great in this movie. I think that I think there's this lovable aloofness about the character. It just works. It's just like he's an idiot. Like I feel like everything he does is he's an idiot. So it just it works. And I mean, I shouldn't even say that because I'm sure it's offensive to call someone an idiot, but he's just so funny in this movie, man.
I mean, idiots get offended by getting called idiots. But I mean, idiot to me's got less to do with mental stability and more to do with you're just a friggin' moron, And Speedman's just a friggin' moron. Like, I don't guess he means to be, but like even when Pat Cosby says, "Hey, buddy," he says, "Guess he made the back cover of Vanity Fair," and he's all happy about it, like the back cover, not the front cover, But like his career's gone cold. And like nothing's working for him. Like you said at the beginning here, a lot of Hollywood style tropes in this movie. This is one of them. The action star who had a great run as an action star, but now it's kind of getting stale. I mean, he's the perfect guy to lead this cast. I mean, a director or not, but like, man, he got ripped for this movie too, not for nothing. He's in great shape for this film, which I found very cool. And but supposedly he based the character on a young Sylvester Stallone, which makes all the sense in the world. Is there anything redeeming about Speedman as a character here? I mean, you kind of try to dig for something that makes him human, but he's just so out there. I mean, is he the least relatable one on this cast as far as a character goes, or is he not? What do you think?
I think that he's relatable in a sense that he did something for a long time that worked. And then when it didn't work, it was like, okay, well, how do I move forward? How do I become a serious actor? And then he tries to do the Oscar bait movie. It's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculously tone deaf. But no, I think that his career was going in one trajectory, and then once it stopped, it was like, okay, what do I do now? And I mean, it's almost even funny to say that he's relatable for that because it's just such a ridiculous concept for a character, but it is a realistic concept for a character because, as you said, we've seen it so many times where actors have been action stars for so long, and then maybe you get too old to do action movies, or maybe the franchise that you worked the longest on is, it's not clicking anymore. It's not buzzworthy anymore. So you got to do something else. So yeah, I think that his character works because we've seen it. We've seen it in real life.
I mean, is there another type of actor that burns out besides the action guy? Because I'm sitting here as you're saying, I'm thinking the date movie guy doesn't really burn out that much.
The comedy guy.
The comedy guy, that's a good call.
Well, I mean, that's what Jack Black's character is basically in this movie. Of you getting burned out doing the comedy gig bits and the same gags over and over.
That's a good call. That's good. And an obvious direct reference to The Nutty Professor with Jeff Portnoy. 100%. which I still submit the First Nutty Professor is a darn fine film and hilarious. Second one,
Well, which
I
one?
could have
The
maybe never
original
saw
or
this.
the remake?
Okay, the remake, the original with Jerry Lewis is very good, but I enjoyed the Eddie Murphy remake. The part 2 of that,
Yeah,
not so much.
the second one's awful. But
Yeah.
yeah, the first one that Eddie Murphy makes is very, very funny. It holds up very well. I still quote some of the Dave Chappelle stuff from that one. Hilarious.
Get off the stage, man. You ain't in show business. I love that.
Women be shopping. Women be
God.
shopping. I
We'll have to
forgot
do that
what
sometime.
he says to when Eddie Murphy's character tries to leave and he's like, "Oh man, we got a full moon tonight." And he's like, "Where you going, boy? You got more crack than Harlem."
Oh God. I see another Professor episode in our future. That's too good.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Classic
Yeah,
movie.
it's really good. Yeah. And you know what? In another world, Jack Black is that guy. Jack Black's had a fine career, but like in another world, he's that plays multiple parts. And dude, apart from all the flatulence of the trailer and that they kept talking about in this film, dude, I was kind of like, I think I want to see this film. This film looks ridiculous, but man, you know, God, he looks so good in all the makeup and stuff. I'm like, man, how long did it take just to film a tiny trailer for this big movie? How much prosthetic work did he have to go through to get just that? Which took 30 seconds or something, you know? That's insane. So yes, folks, if you hadn't figured out, Jeff Portnoy is portrayed by the great Jack Black. He works in this cast so well, but like he is on the fringe. This guy is coked out of his mind. He flat out warns them when they finally break into that camp near the end. He's going to do all the heroin. I mean, he's going to do it all. Going to go nuts. I mean, another Hollywood trope, man. Another stereotype that he's that struggling actor who used to be famous or he's had some hits, but he's so addicted and so on the blow or whatever that he can't keep himself straight anymore. He's gone. There was times he looked a little bit like Farley in that trailer, like just a little bit. Yeah. So what do you think about Jack Black in this film?
I think that he's great. I am a big fan of Jack Black. I think that he's very funny, and I think that he takes something that is kind of serious. It's kind of a serious subject matter of comedians that fall off the wagon and become drug addicts. And I think he takes this and does some really funny stuff with it in his movie.
Yeah, I agree, and he's got such a he's just got such a way about him. I don't know this for sure, but I don't think I've ever heard anybody say. All right, so I don't know for sure if this is the truth, but I've never heard anyone say that they had a difficult time working with Jack Black. I think for the most part, people are like, oh, he's so funny, he's laid back, he's easy to work with, and he's always turned on. Kind of Jim Carrey's always turned on. I kind of compare those two guys in my head quite a bit. But yeah, I'm like you. I think he definitely works here, and he's great. We've mentioned Downey, of course, as Kirk Lazarus, with the bluest eyes you've ever seen. Those contacts, man, that he's got in are insanely blue, which I'm sure that was the point, was to try to make him the sexiest, most beautiful man you could imagine and make it over the top where it's too much, even for Hollywood. And you could tell the hair's bleached and he looks phony even without any of the makeup happening. But Kirk Lazarus, 5-time Academy Award winning Kirk Lazarus. Let's don't forget that. Dude, what about this, man? I mean, as you said before, this is when he's starting to warm up again. Iron Man's putting him back on the map in a big bad way. I mean, the timing of this is great. He's got the buzz a week later, 10 days after Iron Man. He's got the buzz from that going into Tropic Thunder. My God. this is a great vehicle for him, isn't it? I mean, who else could have done this? I don't know. I'm sure some people got offended by this. I'm sure they did. But I mean, if you put anybody else here, it may have been so offensive it would have bombed the movie. But I think he did just enough where it's not, insanely I want to turn this off or anything. Plus he's just so naturally funny, dude, which I don't think he gets enough credit for anyway,
No, I think if anybody's got offended by it, I think they missed the point of what the actual joke was. Because I don't think they're making fun of black people here. I don't think that him doing blackface is, intentionally a way to offend black people. I think it is intentionally making fun of how tone deaf Hollywood can be. And there's so many things here between his character and Brandon T. Jackson's character that makes it work. And without that, it might have been offensive. But no, I think what they did here was really good.
Brandon T. Jackson, who we'll get to in a second, said about this, when I first read the script, I was like, what? Blackface? But when I saw him act, he became a black man. It was just good acting. It was weird on the set because he would keep going with the character because he's already a method actor. So apparently they got so used to it that it didn't even occur to them it's down into that makeup because he just kept going all the time.
Yeah.
Which is even funnier to me.
Yeah, I think that what he did with this was pretty brilliant. I think there are many choices he made with the role. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was hilarious. And again, if it was just I feel like him making fun of black people, maybe I would have been offended. But I don't think that he was making fun of black people at all. I think that he was making fun of white method actors.
Yes. And to your point, Stiller's comments on it were when people see the movie in the context of the film, he's playing a method actor who's gone to great lengths to play a black man. The movie is skewering actors and how they take themselves so seriously. And here's a little nugget for you that Stiller previewed the film before the NAACP and received good feedback. So he went out of his way before the thing was even released to say, hey, I'd like for you guys to take a look at this. I'd like any feedback you can give me. I mean, that's pretty cool because he could have just been that arrogant Hollywood guy and said, I don't care what anybody thinks. Let's just put it out. But he cared enough, even in 2008, to say, maybe we should float this by somebody first.
Right. Yeah. I never felt like this was, I never felt like this was something where they wouldn't have tried to cover their bases with it. Nothing about what they did bothered me. I think that it hit all of the correct notes. And the stuff that does bother you about what Downey's character is doing is immediately pointing out as bad. Like I said, I think if you don't have Brandon T. Jackson's character in here telling you like, no, this is bad, then maybe. But no, I feel like they've pointed out several times during the movies that this is bad.
Yes. Oh my God. What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people? That's the best line. It's the best line. Because he's getting offended by a you people comment, but the truth is he's not actually a black man. But it just makes it even crazier and even more outlandish. Brandon T. Jackson as Al Pacino. Again, another great name. I don't know that I knew that much about Brandon T. Jackson going into this film, but man, it just feels like, and for me, he was the most human part of this cast, with the exception of one guy who we're going to get to in a second. But what about Brandon T. Jackson as Al Pacino?
I thought he was great. I think that I'm often surprised that his career didn't take off like it should have, because he got some pretty big endorsements, not just doing this movie, but from like Eddie Murphy and other, Hollywood elites. And I would have thought that his career would have gotten bigger. He would have gotten more comedic roles, and it hasn't quite happened, which is I'm not sure why. But I thought he was hilarious in this movie.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm trying to take this thing one thing at a time because there's so much I want to talk about here, and it's hard to not jump into other topics here. But I'm with you. I think he was again, for me, he centered the film for me. Like it just felt more like a real person out in the jungle. He didn't feel, even though he's phony as well, because they're all phony in their own way.
Yes.
But I mean, he had something he was hiding. So I guess in that way he was kind of phony, but he wasn't the character that he was portraying in front of the world. So let's round out the main core here. Kevin Sandusky, portrayed by Jared Baruchel, which I think I'm getting that right. We know if you may not know any movie he's been in, but once you see his face, kids, you know who it is. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff. He was in the Great Little Part and Almost Famous. He was in a lot of the comedies with.
He does a lot of stuff with Seth Rogen and those guys.
Seth Rogen,
because I know he's in this.
Judd Apatow.
Yeah, there you go, Judd Apatow. He's in This Is the End. He's in a bunch of those other kind of movies. And he always kind of plays the straight guy. And he's good at it. He's very fun at it. He's of course in She's Out of My League. He's the main actor in that. He's in that weird Nicolas Cage movie with the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Right. Man, how did you remember that? That's crazy.
Yeah,
or how did you know that? I should say.
I don't know. I just thought of it because I'm trying to think of everything he's been in.
I see.
And of course he's like the main character in the How to Train Your Dragon franchise.
Very true. Great voice acting by that guy.
Yeah.
Kevin Sandusky is the only one. There you go. He's the only one in this film that isn't hiding anything. He's not phony. He's not pretending to be somebody else. There's nothing about this guy that isn't real, right? I mean, he's literally the straight guy in this whole movie, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty much. Which is his character in most movies he's in, which is funny in itself.
True. Yeah. Nothing's really changed here at all. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you. Here's a guy that I forgot was in this, was freaking Danny McBride, man. Like, so good. I want to quote so many lines, but we keep the show PG here, right? And I can't quote them because I'll have to censor it. But man, just him, he's got some of the best lines and some of the catchphrases he uses, man. Danny McBride, dude, Eastbound and Down. This guy, I swear to God, he knows what he can do. And he does it so well. I mean, he's like a great guitar player. He knows what he can do. That his riffs will get you out of your seat and get you excited, get you pumped up. This guy is so good, man. And it feels like he's just riffing himself. Like he's just being a dude. And I think if they're writing parts for him, they're doing it the right way. I think if you give this guy an established role that he's supposed to be a certain way, can he deliver? Maybe. But I think it's more or less like, oh my God, this would be funny. Hey, Danny, you want to do this? And just make it funnier. Like, that's what this feels like, man. Danny McBride as Cody, the film's explosive expert. He doesn't have a huge part. But man, it's awesome. The movies he references that he's worked on before, which are ridiculous. Freaky Friday, where he nearly blinded Jamie Lee Curtis, which is a great throwaway line. Dude, you didn't really need him for this movie, but man, he just adds to it, doesn't he?
Yeah. Danny McBride is just so funny in everything I've seen him in. He's one of the funniest characters in This Is the End. Which is such a funny and ridiculous movie as well. But he's so funny in it. I really enjoy him in Vice Principals as well. Really funny guy, man. He's funny in this as well. He's just so over the top, and it's something about him throwing tantrums and things. When he throws tantrums, it's always funny.
God, it really is. He's so good. Yeah, like I said, I don't know that this movie needed him per se, but man, he's so good in it. It's insane how great he is. Nick Nolte as Four Leaf Tayback, and Four Leaf is 2 words. Tayback, 1 word. Four Leaf Tayback, the author of Tropic Thunder, a fake memoir of his war experiences. Fake, we find out later, he has both hands, not 2 hooks. He was never in Vietnam. Spoiler alert. I mean, Nick Nolte is always down here when he talks, and I'm in the crap, that kind of thing. Dude, I mean, perfect casting. I don't know who else they even considered for this, but anybody else would have been the wrong choice. He's so awesome. They needed a grizzled veteran, so they went and got a grizzled veteran to play him. I mean, dude, Nick Nolte, who knew the guy had a funny streak like this? I mean, this is good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Nolte is one of 2 mostly serious guys we see do other things that are just surprisingly really funny in this movie because they just completely delved into the ridiculous characters for this movie. Of course, I'm sure we're gonna get to the other one later, but I think if he hadn't, gone in with such conviction with the character and really bought in, this thing could have easily fell apart.
Oh, no doubt. This whole movie could have been a massive flop, dude. I mean, the movie about a flop could have been a flop. I mean, what kind of weird poetic stuff would that have been? But yeah, no, they brought it home. I mean, Nick Nolte's great in this. Rapid fire down here as well. Matthew McConaughey as Rick the Pecker. Rick Peck. Hey, man, it's the Pecker. That's great. I love that guy. Again, not a lot in this film, but I love that everyone in here, he's the only one that had a real, sort of grappling with his own conscience and had a thing where he had to actually make the right decision. He was really the only guy that I can recall that was really challenged that, I could either be a complete jerk or I could do the right thing. And he totally did the right thing. He came back for Speedman.
The TiVo player.
Now it was to give him his TiVo, right? But still.
With the TiVo. Man, I just think that McConaughey does such a great job of playing one of those Hollywood guys that I feel like we see on television a lot. That's like the laid back Hollywood guy that is like, yeah, I talk like this, and I am here, and yeah, I'm here to represent my client, and he has just that he has that drawl and everything down back for it. It's so funny.
But the funny bit is he's not really fake at all. He genuinely likes Speedman, and he's terrified that Speedman's going to fire him in the movie. Like it's really got him worried because evidently Speedman's his biggest client. So, yeah, there you go. Let's see, Bill Hader. And Bill Hader doesn't have a big part. Bill Hader's so good, that voice, that face. He can do so many great impressions. I don't know if he had enough to do as the lackey, but I thought what he had was good. Steve Coogan. I love Steve Coogan. Steve Coogan is Damien Cockburn. And he is, which in and of itself is great. He's a British film director who's just tired of the egos. He's sick of it. And, Tayback convinces him to just drop these 4 guys in the jungle and see what happens to them, which is awesome. And what do you think about Coogan and Hader here? I mean, they weren't in the movie very long, but like Coogan's impact was, pretty evident when the massive moment happened in the jungle that no one saw coming. Do you remember seeing this film in the theater? And when he steps on that landmine, there was literal shock in the theater where I went to see it. It was like, oh, what?
yeah, that was definitely one of the moments in the movie where I was like, wait, what?
Because it happened so fast, and it's not even like, it's just the sound was like, poof. It's just very quick, like a poof. Like, I don't know what landmines are supposed to sound like or what a body sounds like, but man, that was freaking hilarious, dude.
Yeah. Coogan's good here. He's not given a whole lot to do, but I think he's good here. I've seen him in a few things where he has like a small role and he just nails it. Like he's in the Other Guys and he's not in it very long, but he's funny in the very brief spots he's in.
Yes, he is. Les Grossman, who is, to call him foul mouthed is to be kind. He's more than foul mouthed. All right. This guy would make Richard Pryor blush. He is the worst scumbag that you've ever seen. But he's so good at what he does. Here's something else to throw back to the first time I saw this in the theater. At the very end, when he's doing the dance and they flash up his name, Tom Cruise as Les Grossman, I heard people in the audience go, "Oh!" Dude, there were people in the audience shocked because it's almost like, wait a minute, I know this guy. Who is this guy? Like, I didn't know anything going in. I hate knowing stuff going in. So when we went in and he first showed up on screen, I'm like, okay, why do I feel like I know this guy? And then after 20 minutes, I was like, oh my God, that's Tom Cruise. And whoever I was with, I didn't tell that person. So at the end, when the credits rolled, the person, everyone popped at the same time. Did you know pretty early this was Tom Cruise? Was it evident to you? Because I don't think a lot of people knew to the very end.
I didn't know until the credits rolled that it was Tom Cruise. Yeah, Tom completely threw himself into this role, and he's just so great. Yeah, I mean, and even just the way that they reveal it's Tom Cruise, it almost doesn't even feel like it's real. It feels like it's a part of the movie. It feels like it's another one of those breaking the fourth wall kind of jokes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's fantastic.
And supposedly they wanted him for Peck. He was cast as Peck. But he was the one that said, hey, what if we had like a head of the studio and the guy was a complete, piece of crap or something? And they're like, okay. And they went with it. I'm so glad they went with it because this guy he's vile. He's contemptible. He's the worst person in the whole film. He's like, a nutless monkey could do your job. Like straight face, he delivers that line. It's so good. Okay. So we don't have a villain here per se. We do have the Flaming Dragon Gang, which again, if you want to get real nitpicky, I mean, if you're Asian American, maybe it's not nitpicky. Maybe it's pretty freaking offensive. You could go there if you wanted to. But apart from the Flaming Dragons, there's no real villain here. So I can't ask you my typical, what do you think about the villain's plot? I love this story of this film that's a movie within a movie. Dude, I think it's one of the most original. I can't say it's the most original thing or that no one's ever done this before because I don't recall off the top of my head. But what do you think about this story, the premise behind this movie? I freaking love it, and I think it works, man.
I think it's great because I think at first we don't know that it's a movie in a movie. And I think that concept
Right.
of it makes all of the things that they're making fun of in a movie even funnier. Yeah, I just think it's a good concept for the movie. I'm not sure if it has been done before, but I thought it worked really well here.
And I love that they always think that they're on camera and then their mood changes, their body language changes, like they have to act. Like Speedman and the guy from the Flaming Dragon are spitting on each other. He's like, good, more. And he keeps spitting on him. When they see them in the jungle after Cockburn explodes, basically, and the Flaming Dragons are watching, and one of them says they have no fear of death. Like he's laughing. They're all laughing. And so it's like they think that they're mental, like they're crazy. Like it's one of those, they get the wrong impression about who these guys are, and it works through the whole film. I love this story. I think the premise is freaking great. Another interesting little tidbit here. The title of the film, Tropic Thunder, is directly related to Tropic Lightning, which is the nickname of the 25th Infantry Division, which has seen action in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Southwest Asia, Afghanistan, and Iraq, among others. And it was even detailed in the Thin Red Line and Platoon. So there you go. Interesting how they tie everything together. But yeah, I love it, man. I love the idea of the film within a film. I just think it's so great, man. And I think it works. And it's dropping 4 comedians into the jungle and telling them just go be funny, I think that works as well. I mean, there's just so much about this film that's killing it for me. the scenes in the jungle, and I love the Vietnam era stuff that they're doing because they include so much of the music that we've seen in Vietnam movies over the years. CCR and what is it, Ball of Confusion by the Temptations, I think. Is that the Four Tops? I think it's Temptations. Yeah, but they've got all this, like the soundtrack is a typical war movie soundtrack. The feel of it, the look. This movie could not. I mean, this movie wasn't cheap, kids. I mean, there's something to be said about that. I mean, I don't know what the coin was in 2008 compared to now, but the budget of this film is just under $100 million, which is saying something. And the movie made double what double what the budget was, which is a nice little return on your investment, I would say. Have a product or a service that you want to get out into the world? Always wanted to try your hand at podcasting but don't know where to start? We've got you covered. Pod for Hire is a podcast production company that offers turnkey services to fit your needs. We produce your show from start to finish, allowing you the valuable time you require to focus on your established clients as well as prospective clients. We pride ourselves on delivering a top-notch product that will set your business apart from the rest and give your company the exposure it deserves. For more information, give us a call at 1-828-800-9880 or email us at info@podforhire.com. Pod for Hire. We take the work out of podcasting. I mean, the movie looks good. Was it important to make the thing look authentic? Do you think it mattered? It is a comedy after all.
Right.
But if any of the effects had looked hokey or the jungle hadn't looked right, it wouldn't have worked, would it? Or would it?
Yeah, I don't think it would have worked as well if it didn't try to convince us that it was actually a movie. You know what I mean? Because if you don't come into this thinking that it's just like it's an actual movie and it's not like a movie inside a movie, I don't know if the concept of it works as well.
Yeah, you're right. Because they had to make it look as if they were actually doing a movie. Kirk Lazarus, back to Downey, supposedly based a performance on a combination of Russell Crowe, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Colin Farrell, which makes all the sense in the world. So all right, so let's go through the sort of the plot here. So they're filming the film in the beginning of the film, and Speedman can't cry. And meanwhile, Lazarus is blubbering and drooling and just, bawling like a baby. And he's holding Speedman's arms, which the hands are gone. And it's like, Sandusky's guts are hanging out. And it's the most ridiculous battlefield injuries you've ever seen. That sets the tone for what this movie's going to be. Because for them, this was a blockbuster as they were filming it. Which I think the voiceover from the newscast said that they were 4 days into filming and were already 2 weeks behind and over budget or something like that. And I'm like, of course. But again, it's like investigating or dissecting the tropes of what a Hollywood movie is. Isn't this sort of the deal with every big budget Hollywood flick? They go too far and do too much and pay too much money. And, it's a simple scene in a jungle, but they've got all these explosives rigged up and it's all this money for pyrotechnics and special effects and blood and all the choppers and everything. This movie looks so authentic, dude. It looks like it could be the real deal. This movie works all by itself just as a lampoon of basic Hollywood films. Is that why you think this movie holds up as well as it does? Because it is lampooning Hollywood essentially anyway.
Yes. Yeah. I think when you think of movies like Hollywood Shuffle and these other things that have real commentary on Hollywood, I think that's why this movie works so well.
Everybody loves hoe cake, Phil. I'm just saying. Got to do Hollywood Shuffle one day. I love that freaking movie, man. I've seen that movie so many times through the years. It's crazy. So yeah, he can't cry. It's utterly ridiculous. And Four Leaf's going off on him. And he's telling Cockburn that, you just got to drop these guys in the middle of the jungle. They're going to set up hidden cameras, which they do. The entire cast, all these guys have so many problems with each other. It's crazy. But yeah, it's, so they do it. They drop him in there. And of course, Cockburn gets killed. No one sees that coming. Dude, it's a fake head. Steve Coogan's not really dead. So we know it's a prosthetic head. But when Stiller puts his fingers into the neck, dude, I got grossed out again. And my wife is turning her head from the screen. Like, we know it's not real. And then when he takes the head and like puts his mouth under it, like, you know it's not real. But dude, did that gross you out any time that you've seen it? Because it still kind of gets to you a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very gross, but it is it's such a funny gag. But it is very gross.
Because he said it's corn syrup. It's just corn syrup. Look at it. That's all it is. Very warm corn syrup, actually. Oh God, it's gross. And like it's not even real, but it's horrible. But yeah, dude, just the idea that they get dropped into this jungle and they have to sort of make it out alive. And they just follow the plan of the book. They just follow the events of the book and they decide to rescue Speedman. So it's like it all works hand in hand. So inside the movie, they're making a movie, but then they live something real that was essentially the movie. God, dude, there's so many ways to point this thing. It's crazy. Why does this movie work to begin with? Is it the cast and this? Is it? I don't know. Is it a combination of the cast and the story? Is it the jokes? Is it the effects? I mean, is it the scenery? Does everything work together? Why do you think this movie works in the first place, and why does it still hold up all these years later?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of having a really good cast and having a really good concept and scenario. I think a lot of the things that they're making fun of are things that we've all seen from Hollywood as not just as moviegoers, but you know, as a society that is obsessed with celebrities.
Yes.
And so I think a lot of things that is making fun of about celebrities works in that in that we're all super, what's the word I'm looking for? We're all super aware of celebrity status.
Oh yeah, no kidding. I just, and these guys are big names, and they're kind of not poking fun of themselves, but poking fun at their profession, which I think is the most important thing to do. I think these guys need to stay humble. And Denzel Washington had a great quote. I saw him on a round table with a lot of other big name actors several years ago, and he said, he said, I think what we do is important. I think it can be dramatic. He said, but at the end of the day, we're just actors. He's like, relax, just calm yourselves. What we do is easy. This is nothing. This is not hard. This is not work. This is getting in front of the camera, pretending to be somebody else. I'm like, I love that. If you need another reason to love Denzel, you have one. I mean, he's just,
just one of the greatest actors of all time.
He is. Like, don't take yourself seriously, folks. I think that's the point here. Let's see, something else I want to get to here. So, there's so many references in this film, and there's so many little cameos that happen just kind of out of the blue. Jon Voight is in the crowd at the end, and apparently he was up for the best actor along with Speedman. And Speedman won, and Voight is obviously upset, like he wanted the Oscar, but he he shakes Speedman's hand anyway. Like, Speedman got the Oscar. That's great. And then when he gets on stage, he does sort of the Tom Cruise reaction, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it works. Dude, there was talk of there were going to be a Hardy Boys movie based on the old books and the old detective show from the 70s. And it was going to be Tom Cruise and Ben Stiller as the Hardy Boys. But the movie did not get made. Oh, what a world it would have been had they made the Hardy Boys movie with Ben Stiller and Tom Cruise. This is one of those weird friendships. It seems like on the surface it shouldn't work, but it totally works. I mean, Stiller's got a great impression of Cruise that's just off the charts. I mean, Cruise, man, it's a whole other show. But Cruise is all kinds of messed up from the Scientology stuff, and he's an oddball, right? And there's something about that smile that's a little too not genuine. But like, you can't diss the guy for his acting chops. I mean, he's got it. It's just, everything else is messed up. Why does he work so well in comedy, you think? Why does he translate so well?
I don't know. I think that there's a certain level to a really good actor that they don't take themselves that seriously. So it makes it easier for them to completely delve into a character. And I think because somebody like Cruise doesn't take himself so seriously, he can do comedy very well. And I mean, there are a lot of actors that don't do comedy, that do serious action or drama, and they're very funny. Like I don't know if you've ever seen Denzel in interviews, but he's hilarious.
He is. He's very funny. Yeah.
And I could see him doing comedy, but he doesn't do a lot of it. I mean, look at Jamie Foxx, for example. Jamie Foxx is a fantastic actor, but he's also a great comedian.
He is. And we've seen both sides. I'm waiting for a breakout comedy from Denzel. Would it make more sense for it to be an ensemble comedy, like a Tropic Thunder or something, where he doesn't have to be the only funny guy in the movie, maybe?
Yeah, I think that he could work in an ensemble cast. I mean, we've seen several serious actors do ensemble things and do funny roles. Like, I mean, Morgan Freeman's another one. He's great serious actor, but he's done some great comedy stuff as well.
Right. I love the trivia stuff. Some of the stuff I knew, some stuff I didn't. So Cruise, we were just talking about Cruise. Les Grossman. If you notice, and I know you notice, he's wearing fat arms, like, to make himself appear bigger than what he is, obviously. But Les Gros Mains is French for big hands. So they called the character Les Grossman. It's perfect. But yeah, he was great in this, man. Again, despite all the wackadoodle stuff he's into or whatever. I mean, it's ridiculous, but he's very good in this. In the film, this is back to Downey. Kirk Lazarus says, "I don't drop character till I've done the DVD commentary," which is freaking great. It's so great. What a great line. Here's a funny bit. They recorded the audio commentary for the unrated DVD and Blu-ray. Downey spends the entire commentary in the character that appears on the screen. Now, I don't know if they mean as Lazarus or if they mean as the character in the film, which for some reason I'm drawing a blank as the character in the film, which is ridiculous. How come I can't remember his name? Kirk Lazarus, but he's in the film. He's playing Staff Sergeant Lincoln Osiris. That's it. Now I have to hear the audio commentary. Now I really want to hear it because I got to hear what voice he's doing, man. But yeah, I love little stuff like that. But yeah, I don't drop characters till I've done. And plus, the one line, I'm not going to say it, but I'm a lead farmer, mother effer. Dude, I love that. That is the best line ever.
I mean, I'm sure it could be seen as offensive. Him attempting to speak Cantonese, and it's so it's so bad. He's just making up words and throwing in real words that don't fit, like electrolyte.
Yes,
it's so funny. It's so funny, man.
And like he knows a little bit to pass, and then the kid almost let him go until he instead of rice patty said poppy field, and that got him caught. What about the kid, man? The leader of the Flaming Dragon gang. That little kid is vicious, man. I wouldn't want to cross him.
Yeah, he's great. He's great in the role.
Good stuff.
I don't know enough about that part of the world to know if that's offensive or not. But it's just one of those things where it is just so ridiculous in movie.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just great.
It's Reggie Lee is the second in command to the kid. And what's funny is when Grossman's on the phone screaming at him, the look that he has on his face on the phone is priceless. It's like they cut back to that and the camera stays there just long enough for you to crack up and then pulls the camera back away from that scene. It's perfect. Like, Stiller doesn't get enough credit for how smart he is behind the camera, dude. He really doesn't.
Yeah. No, he's actually a pretty good director.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else he's directed offhand. Didn't he direct Cable Guy as well?
He did. I thought he directed Dodgeball too. Am I crazy?
I'm not sure if he did. If he did, then that's another really funny movie. Um,
Yeah.
but no, he's actually a pretty good director.
I think so too. Cable Guy is an acquired taste. You really, really like Cable Guy, or you really don't care much for Cable Guy? I mean, he's
Yeah, it's such a quirky movie. I feel like either you feel like it's incredibly stupid, or you don't understand the appeal of it,
mhm.
or you're very into it. I feel like it's definitely an acquired taste.
He directed Reality Bites. Um, he did direct Cable Guy. He directed Zoolander. Let's see. He did not direct Dodgeball. He did direct, of course, Tropic Thunder, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Did you see The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
Yes.
This movie bombed, I think. Uh, I loved The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, even though it is absolutely ridiculous. But man, the soundtrack is freaking phenomenal, and the movie is beautiful. Now I want to do that episode. What did you think about that film, man?
I thought it was a pretty good movie. I don't think it was like a masterpiece or something. Like I
No.
don't think it's up there with like Truman Show or like any like but I thought it was entertaining.
Mm-hmm. He also directed Zoolander 2s. I never got into the Zoolander movies. Did you get into them?
I really love the first Zoolander. I
Really?
actually quote it pretty often. Um,
Oh,
it's
wow.
so many things about that movie that I deeply enjoy. Um, yeah, just them going with this running gag the entire movie of there's Hansel. That guy's so hot right now.
God, I haven't seen that movie in years, man. For
yeah,
sure.
yeah, you're interrupting my you googly. You couldn't
Ah.
pronounce eulogy.
Right. Jesus.
No, yeah, Zoolander is hilarious. I don't remember if I've seen Zoolander 2, but yeah, the first one is so funny.
I don't think number 2 got as much acclaim as the first one did, or as much attention anyway. Um, we keep going back to the Rick Peck character. There's so much trivia about the Rick Peck character. It's crazy. It's like more trivia than anybody else in the movie. Owen Wilson was going to play Rick Peck, but apparently he attempted suicide during this time, and which I didn't know. So they
Yikes.
decided to, yeah, I had no idea. So they decided to give the role to McConaughey. Um, yeah, I had no idea about that. That's crazy. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. The two characters played by Downey are Lazarus and Osiris, the names of two resurrected characters from ancient literature, which I don't think I put that together at all, but that's pretty darn good. Um, let's see. And one of the special features in the director's DVD cut, Ben Stiller said he had been developing ideas for this movie for about 8 to 10 years, which I did remember that bit. He'd been talking about it for a long time. And one of his first ideas was that the movie was going to be about actors going to a fake boot camp for a couple of weeks and coming back with PTSD. When Stiller started out in Hollywood, he had a lot of colleagues going into war movies, and they would attend a fake boot camp in order to prepare for their roles. He found it ridiculous, and this was an early inspiration on what would become this movie. So I think the key here, kids, is don't forget anything because, you might could use it later. Um, and apparently came up with the idea when he was working on Empire of the Sun in 1987. So that's where it all sort of started from there. There's references in here to Kangaroo Jack, Crocodile Dundee, and Downey says, that man's a national treasure. You know what I mean? That's great stuff, dude. Um, I don't know, man. This is one of those movies I now want to go watch it again. Like, I was watching it last night again, like I said earlier, for the first time in a very, very long time. And sometimes when I watch something like that, at the end of it, I'm like, why have I not watched this in a long time? Because dude, there's so much content to get through on any given day, especially now. Jeez. Um, I've asked you this about films in the past, and usually the answer is pretty freaking obvious. But I'm going to hit you with something that I don't think it is very obvious. Why not do a part two? Because while this movie is crazy entertaining, is it held in the regard of, oh, this is Elf? This is, I don't know, it's one of those classic comedies. You don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't ever make a part two. I mean, Do you view this as that, or could you see a part 2 with the actors later, years after the fact? I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't think you can do a part two because I think a lot of what's entertaining about this movie is the surprises that it's a movie inside of a movie. I think going into this movie and not knowing enough about it, there are so many surprises, there's so many gags that might not have hit as well if we already know that it's not a real movie.
Right.
And yeah, I just don't think that I don't think that you can duplicate it. I don't think you can duplicate what worked here.
What's funny is that there was talk of developing a film based on Grossman.
Interesting.
And that, yeah, dude, and that there was a script, and it was supposed to happen, and it just never happened, which I think is bad because I think I would love to have seen now. That would have made sense had you spun it off into somebody else's world. But and Grossman has to win. I think that's the point. We can't see Gross. I don't know what's funnier, that Grossman wins in the end or that he loses in the end. Wouldn't it be funnier because he wins in the end of this movie? Like, no one really knows he did anything wrong or was going to do something wrong. Everything works out for everybody. So like, he's dancing in the end of it. It's almost like I don't want to see the bad guy win. It's kind of funny when he won in this movie because like he's hilarious anyway, you know?
Yeah, but see, I think that the commentary about Hollywood makes it so funny that when you really look at what they're lambasting, and that there are a lot of terrible people in Hollywood that people may not know are bad, um, but they always end up winning in the end because they make a lot of money, and
Right.
it's all glossed over in the in the grand scheme of things. I mean, just look at guys like uh what's our guy that just got caught up with all of the harassment stuff?
Oh, yeah. Miller.
Not Miller, the producer guy. Why am I drawing a blank on this guy's name? Sorry.
I don't know, Phil. There's been a lot of them, man. Hard to keep track.
Weinstein. That's who I was thinking. Harvey Weinstein.
Yes, that's
And
it.
you look at all of the movies that he has been behind, and the success that he's had in Hollywood, and he's been a fixture in Hollywood for so long. Um, yeah, so I think it's easy. I think that's what makes a lot of what this movie is attempting to make fun of work, because it of course it's real for Les's character to end up winning in the end, because a lot of these guys end up winning in the end.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Um, Funny bit about that Weinstein thing. There's nothing funny about it, right? But like, one of the reasons why Dogma, you can't buy Dogma unless you go online and find someone with a copy, and they're going to charge you $100 for it, and you can't download it digitally either. Is because Weinstein owns the film. He flat out owns the film. Kevin Smith doesn't own it, and they were going to work out a deal for a sequel and do something with the original. And the day after that phone call with Kevin Smith, everything came out about what Weinstein was really doing. It was like the day or the week after, right after the conversation, which is crazy. So now, as a result of that, that film is untouchable. No one can get their hands on it, which is insane. Like, it's part of your work. It's part of your life's work. This is part of your legacy, whether people love it or hate it, but you can't get your hands on it, which is crazy to me. But yeah, different conversation. Here's something we've not talked about here at the end. When I'm in the theater for the first time, going back to 2008 here, and the first thing that pops up on the screen is booty sweat. Dude, let me tell you that at first it was kind of people looking at each other going, what? And then as it got deeper into the commercial, people were howling. And people were like, oh my God, is this I heard people going, is this real? And like, dude, when did you recognize Jackson? So did it give it away, or did you get sucked into this thinking, holy crap, is this real?
Yeah, at first I thought it was a real commercial. Yeah, and so that's why I mean it would be hard to make a sequel, because there's so many gags in this thing that work, because we're sucked into this fake version of Hollywood that is very much reminiscent to real Hollywood. So much so that we bought in at several points of this movie.
Oh, and was it Meet the Fatties? I guess is the movie, or the Fatties, whatever they call it. That's one. Satan's Alley with Downey and Spider-Man himself, Tobey Maguire. Which I love. They announced Tobey as MTV's Best Kiss Award winner.
Yeah, I feel like that is a nod to him being nominated in real life for Spider-Man, right?
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. And speaking of nomination, did you remember that Downey was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this film? Because I had totally forgotten that.
I think I knew that.
Oof.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, the stuff that he's making fun of here, just when you think of him doing movies like Chaplin and a lot of other stuff that goes on with Hollywood and how serious actors take themselves, yeah, it's really funny.
Yeah, an interesting note here, Phil. He lost that year to Heath Ledger.
That's right.
So there you go.
For Dark Knight.
Yep. Crazy. The soundtrack, as we discussed, kids, Name of the Game, Ball of Confusion, Run Through the Jungle. Let's see. You Can't Touch This of all songs is on there. I Just Want to Celebrate. I'd Love to Change the World. The Pusher. We can't forget Moving On Up, which is actually on the soundtrack. Because he's quoting the lines to him. And so much of this movie was in the previews. But when he's like, man, that's a theme song from the Jeffersons. And he goes, just because it's from the Jeffersons don't make it not true. Dude, that is the best line. This is a highly quotable flick, Phil. You know? Oh my God, so good. Frankenstein, the song Frankenstein, which I submit, once you get Frankenstein in your head, it'll be in your head for 3 days. It's happened to me many times. I've gone down the hole of the Edgar Winter group with the song Frankenstein, and I had to crawl my way back out. And then of all songs, Sometimes When We Touch is on the soundtrack. War, which of course you got to include Edwin Starr when you make a war flick anyway. And then Get Back, the song by Ludacris. Man, is it just me or does Ludacris feel like a flash in the pan for like his era? Am I reading that wrong? It felt like he was very much of his era, of his time, of that early 2000s.
I think it's because once that era was over, it was over. And
Right.
I feel like he had a hell of a run at that time, but once it was over, it was over. And I mean, it would be hard to argue that he doesn't have a lot of hits. He has a lot of hits. If you really go through his catalog, he's got a deep catalog. But I just think it's just one of those time periods. Like once that time period was over, it was over.
And dude, he's not a bad actor either.
No, he's actually a pretty solid actor, and for my money, I think he had a great career.
I did too.
But I just think that he was definitely a product of that time. Yeah, just including Get Back in the movie, it's just so great. Just the dance scene is great. And it's so reminiscent to things that Ludacris would do in his actual music videos as well. So yeah, it just worked perfectly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much stuff we could talk about here. Yeah, so much stuff. I'm just looking over trivia notes and everything. I mean, God, there's so much stuff. This stuff goes on for days. So many little Easter eggs stuck in here. Some of those small things that you don't mention or that you don't notice or don't realize, that stuff stuck in here. But overall, a really, really good flick. Where do you think this ranks in terms of, does this rank in terms of all-time great comedies for you personally? Or is it in the category, or is it of its time, or is it a favorite? Where do you rank this film for you?
It's definitely a favorite from that time. I think that it is one of the best movies of that year. I don't know. 2008 was just a special time. I think, especially getting out and going to the movies. It was one of those movie going experiences that I don't know. It would have been hard to duplicate that if you didn't see it in a theater or if somebody told you about it through word of mouth. It was one of those things where you had to go and see it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, kids, there you have it. This is, again, it's worth seeing. If you've never seen it, watch it. Get offended a little bit if you want to. It's fine. It's just comedy. Relax. But no, it's hilarious. I love this film. I may just watch it again tonight, actually. Yeah, man, it's good. I still in another world I would like to have seen a part 2 to see what they would have done with it, but I'm okay with it being left alone as well. So before we wrap this up there, Phil, let's get your last word. What do you think about Tropic Thunder?
I think that it is a surprisingly insightful movie in some ways because the satire they're doing is so good. Um, and really, I just think that it is a surprisingly original concept for a movie. And I think that a reason why that the movie works so well is because there's just so much nuance there. And that sounds crazy to say that there's nuance in a movie that has the quote, never go full retard in it. But there's so much stuff about the movie that I feel like has aged really well. And there's so much stuff that it jokes about Hollywood that is still pretty prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, again, the whole thing about actors take themselves seriously, take themselves too seriously, is never going to not be funny because these people are paid to act.
Yeah, and look, it in some ways it's never going to stop being funny to take wealthy people that are affluent and take them down a peg. It's just always funny.
It is, gosh, because they take themselves too serious. They're paid to act, and while some movies mean the world to me on a personal level or on a fun level, and some movies I'll be connected to till the end of time. But I don't hold those people in any higher regard than I hold anybody else. I'll have respect for what they do, but my God, like the amount of entitlement that some of these actors have, dude, man, that's a whole other show. But yeah, I'm glad there's movies that exist like this that are actually done within the confines of Hollywood. If nothing else, it reminds people, look, what we're doing is not that serious. We can look like idiots because we are idiots most of the time. Let's just have fun. So I'm good with that, folks. I echo everything Phil said. It's a highly watchable flick. It does hold up. I agree with that 100%. So yeah, go out of your way to watch it. I think it's one of Ben Stiller's best of all time, my opinion. Certainly a great directorial effort by him. So that's it. Check out Tropic Thunder for sure. And that is Tropic Thunder. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.